You're just a little too old school for where we're headed. We need someone who can innovate. My name is Rick Donnelly. I'm 62 years old, and until this morning, I was the chief financial officer at Meridian Manufacturing. For 15 years, I served this company. I joined when we were a struggling family business with 3 small factories in Cincinnati. Today, we are a publicly traded company with 18 plants across the Midwest. I helped steer us through 2 recessions, an acquisition crisis, and more boardroom politics than I care to recall. I was never flashy. I didn't wine and dine investors or deliver big keynote speeches. But the numbers? They were always right. The books were always clean. We never missed a filing deadline on my watch. Then Travis Mercer showed up. He was 36, decked out in designer blazers and high-end sneakers. The board brought him in as CEO 3 months ago, and he tore through the company with buzzwords: synergy, disruption, vision realignment. I saw the writing on the wall the moment he scheduled our one-on-one. "The market's changing, Rick," he said, leaning back in my chair, his feet on my desk. "We need someone who speaks the language of modern finance." I nodded, said nothing, offered a handshake. "We're bringing in Zachary Hughes, brilliant guy. 29. Did a TEDx talk on financial innovation that's trending. When's the transition? 2 weeks. We'll announce it at the next board meeting." That afternoon, while everyone sat in an all-hands meeting about our exciting new direction, I packed up 15 years into a single cardboard box. Family photos. The commemorative IPO coin. The leather portfolio my wife Patricia had given me before she passed. Bethany from accounts stood by the elevator, fighting tears. "Don't worry," I told her. "It's all part of the cycle." What I didn't say was that I had spent the last 6 months quietly documenting a series of suspicious transactions that began shortly after Travis arrived. They escalated after he started pushing for Zachary. I wasn't plotting revenge. I was doing my job, keeping the books clean, even on my way out. I grew up in Covington, Kentucky, across the river from Cincinnati. My father owned a hardware store. He taught me that numbers don't lie, even when people do. I put myself through college stocking shelves and managing his books. I stayed local after graduation. In 2008, Meridian's founder, Harold Phillips, called me personally. "I need someone who sleeps better when the books balance," he said. For a decade, we built Meridian with sound practices and quiet growth. When Harold retired, Diana Wright took over. She respected the systems. We didn't always agree, but we got things done. Then Diana left, and the board wanted energy, buzz. Enter Travis Mercer. The first red flag was when he bypassed procurement protocols to hire a marketing consultant, a former classmate, at 4 times the going rate. "We're thinking bigger now, Rick," he said. "The old constraints don't apply." The second flag? He restructured our reporting so finance went through his new chief innovation officer before it got to him. The third? I overheard him on a call. "The books have outdated methods. We need creative solutions." I started watching. Vendor contracts that didn't check out. Consultancy fees without clear deliverables. Budget reallocations without proper authorization. Kevin from internal audit noticed too. "Something's off with the new tech investment tracking," he said. "Document everything," I told him. "Stay factual." Patricia would have told me to blow it all up in a board meeting. But since cancer took her, I've become more methodical. I documented everything, cross-referenced transactions, built a timeline. Travis wasn't trying to innovate. He was laundering money through a web of fake vendors and consultants, shell companies like Alpine Innovations, which was founded 3 days before his appointment. My final board meeting lasted 22 minutes. No tribute, no plaque, just CFO transition update. Travis rattled off buzzwords. William Foster, the chairman who once supported me, couldn't meet my eyes. "You've been an asset, Rick," he said after the meeting. "An asset, like equipment that had depreciated." Bethany handed me an envelope. "From accounting. For a proper send-off dinner." "Thanks," I said. "I wouldn't be using it." "Bethany, when did invoices from Vertex Solutions start?" February, I think, right after Mr. Mercer announced the digital initiative. That was 2 weeks before he mentioned Zachary. That night, I spread the evidence across my dining table. 6 months of fraud wrapped in digital transformation. I wasn't going to the press. I wasn't staging a confrontation. I would let the numbers speak. A week later, I called William Foster. "Just wanted to discuss some irregularities," I said. He called me back, guarded. "Travis mentioned you might reach out, said Zachary resolved your concerns." "William, the issues predate Zachary." Silence. "Look, Rick, it's difficult, but the board has full confidence in Travis. Maybe we'll catch up at the holiday party." Click. The next day, I received a legal email, carefully worded, warning me about defamation. A reminder of my confidentiality agreement. They were closing ranks. I met Kevin for coffee. "They promoted me," he said. "I now report to Zachary." "Congratulations." They changed all the systems, new software, new protocols, signed NDAs. They're watching everyone who worked with you. They're saying you were resistant, that you made mistakes. Some are whispering about ethical concerns. I gripped my coffee mug. So they weren't just replacing me. They were rewriting history. "I should go," Kevin said. "I have a mortgage and twins." "Take care of your family, Kevin." What they didn't know was that I still had admin access. I'd set up an emergency account during the transition, standard procedure. It wouldn't last long, but long enough. Forever. But it might be enough. That night, I used my emergency credentials to access Meridian's audit server. I knew they'd eventually discover and remove the account, so I worked quickly. I followed the money trails I had already identified. What I uncovered made my earlier suspicions seem naive. Alpine Innovations wasn't just a single holding company. It was the core of a sprawling network of shell entities, each interconnected through a web of transactions designed to obscure their true relationships. Some of these connections dated back to before Travis even joined Meridian. This wasn't opportunistic theft. This was a planned infiltration. The deeper I dug, the clearer the picture became. Travis hadn't been hired despite his weak record. He had been installed. His previous company, that flashy Silicon Valley startup with more buzz than substance, had been bankrolled by the same investment group that recently secured 3 seats on Meridian's board. One of those seats belonged to William Foster's nephew Jacob, who joined 6 months ago. This wasn't just an executive skimming from the company. This was a coordinated attack on Meridian itself, a slow-motion asset strip masked as modernization. I downloaded everything. By dawn, I had traced over $12 million siphoned through falsified vendor contracts, inflated service agreements, and phantom consulting fees. Exhausted, I sat on my porch with coffee, watching the sun rise over the Ohio River. Patricia and I had bought this house for that view. "Water calms your overthinking brain," she once said. Now I let the river's steady flow help me think. My first instinct, to alert the board quietly, had been foolish. This went deeper than Travis or Zachary. Some board members were clearly complicit, which explained why they replaced Diana with an outsider so eagerly. I needed to be strategic. That morning, I mapped connections between board members, Travis's past associates, and the shell companies. By afternoon, I had identified 3 board members likely unaware of the scheme. Elaine Morrison, a retired manufacturing exec, David Patel, representing the Workers' Pension Fund, and Anthony Wilson, our oldest board member, quiet but consistent. I also discovered something crucial. Zachary Hughes had worked at Vertex Solutions, one of the shell vendors, 3 years ago. His name was buried in the incorporation documents as a founding partner, scrubbed from public records before he joined Meridian. As I compiled this, my phone rang. "Is this Richard Donnelly?" a woman asked. "Speaking. My name is Vanessa Taylor. I'm with the SEC's Enforcement Division." My heart stopped. "We received an anonymous tip about financial improprieties at Meridian." The tip suggests you might have relevant knowledge. I was cautious. I recently left my position as CFO after 15 years. We're aware. Would you meet informally to discuss certain transactions from the past 6 months? Who else knows you're calling me? No one outside my team. This is preliminary. Going public with this would crush Meridian's stock. Thousands of employees could lose jobs. But the SEC had been tipped off. The clock was ticking. I'll need time, I said, to make sure I get this right. I gave myself 3 days. First, I secured the evidence. I uploaded everything to encrypted storage with multiple backups and set up dead man switches. If I didn't enter a code every 48 hours, the files would be sent automatically to the SEC, DOJ, and 3 trusted journalists. Next, I drafted emails to Elaine, David, and Anthony. I didn't accuse anyone outright. I raised concerns, attached carefully chosen documentation, and scheduled the emails to send in 48 hours. Then I reached out to Bethany. We met for coffee. "They're gutting your department," she whispered. "Zachary says we're consolidating finance. Half the team got reassignment notices. I'm under review." "Bethany, do you remember the audit protocol from the Jackson acquisition? The separate verification pathway?" Her eyes lit with recognition. "The parallel audit trail? Still running. It's hard-coded. They'd have to know about it to shut it down." "Who has access now?" "Just senior auditors. And Zachary." "What about backups? Still go to Iron Mountain monthly?" "Yes. October's went out last week." "Good. Even if they tried to erase records, the originals were safe." I slid an envelope to her. "It contains a formal letter detailing financial concerns. If you submit it, internal audit must act. You'll have whistleblower protection." Her hands shook. "Is this why I'm being pushed out? Because I might notice?" "Probably." "And submitting this forces a record?" "Yes." She took a breath. "I'll submit it tomorrow." On the way home, I stopped at a notary public to sign an affidavit outlining everything I discovered. Then I left sealed instructions with my lawyer. That evening, Kevin texted, "Z asking about old audit protocols. Nervous. Watch yourself." They were catching on. 6 weeks after my departure, it all unraveled. Bethany's report triggered internal audit the same day my emails landed with the 3 uninvolved board members. Elaine Morrison, audit chair, called an emergency board meeting. By noon, outside auditors had taken over. Bethany texted live updates. "Board meeting at 2. Travis looks pale. Zachary escorted out." By evening, internal news confirmed. Meridian was under investigation. Executives under Travis were on leave, pending a full forensic audit. I turned off my phone and walked by the river. For the first time in months, I felt peace. The next morning, 3 missed calls. William, Travis, Jacob. I ignored them. But when Anthony Wilson called, I picked up. 15 years of clean books, he said. No scandals, no missed filings. I should have spoken up. You're speaking up now. The board appointed me acting chair. William and Jacob resigned. Travis and Zachary were terminated for cause. Silence. We'd like you to return, Rick. Help stabilize things. I watched. A barge drift along the Ohio. I'll help with the investigation, I said, but I'm not coming back permanently. Why not? Because Meridian needs someone who can innovate, I said, smiling. I'm just a little too old school. 3 months later, I sat on the deck of my cabin in Asheville, North Carolina, watching the sun set behind the Blue Ridge Mountains. It wasn't a big place, 2 bedrooms and an office, but the view made it home. The investigation had confirmed everything. Travis, Zachary, and several board members faced federal charges for fraud and embezzlement. I spent 6 weeks helping. The forensic team, then packed up my Cincinnati house and moved. The settlement Meridian paid for my help bought the cabin outright. No press, no dramatic returns. That was never my style. Bethany texted, Got promoted to director of accounting. New CEO wants to rebuild the department right. I smiled. Well deserved. Always keep a parallel audit trail. Yesterday, my lawyer told me the SEC had closed the case. Meridian would pay fines and enact reforms, no shareholder or employee penalties. The right outcome. As night fell, I opened the leather portfolio Patricia gave me years ago. Inside was our last photo together at the lake house before her diagnosis. You were right, I told her photo. I should have made more time for views like this. Tomorrow, I'd meet with a local nonprofit to help them with their books. Nothing flashy, just clean, honest accounting. Some might call that old school. I just call it integrity.